Welcome to Recipe to Success, the show where we sit down with entrepreneurs from all different backgrounds to learn more about their journey to success. My name is Humza Zahoor, CEO and founder of Awaken. I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to another episode of Recipe to Success. This is another really exciting one that you're all going to benefit from, a ton of value. Some of you may have seen his face before, maybe seen his Instagram page and things like that, maybe even seen him on TV. So it's going to be really exciting for you to all hear about Z's story. Z, how you doing? Welcome on Recipe to Success.
I'm good, man. Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Yeah. How's everything been since lockdown? All of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, good. I think everyone's getting used to a new normal. Life's a bit different, but there's opportunity. Business is picking up. I think things have changed a lot, especially in the business landscape. A lot of the changes we can't see them yet, but over the next 5 years, we'll see a lot of changes in the business landscape. People's wants and needs are changing. People's priorities are changing. There's very interesting reports, particularly on the property market, because that's one of the sectors I'm heavily involved with. And in the property market, this month, July, has seen the highest property price growth in the last few years. And there's a report recently came out by Knight Frank, which says they did a survey, and around about 35% of people that they surveyed are looking to buy properties overseas. So what's happening is that people are sitting at home, people who've got cash in the bank, they're like, you know what, man, life's short. You know, we're sat here taking life for granted, like we're just going to be here forever. We could be gone tomorrow. Let's go buy that dream house we want. Let's go buy a bigger house. Let's go buy a place in the country, right? Where we could, you know, if we were like in lockdown again ever, then at least we'd have somewhere to go. Again, people looking to buy second homes abroad, that's the 35% of the survey. Again, that's people with money sat in the bank. Let's say, you know, they've been sat on it for a decade and they're just nice. They see their money in their savings account, makes them feel good. And all of a sudden the lockdowns happen. They sat at home for so long. It gives them time to really put things into perspective. Like, you know what? I'm going to go buy that house I want in Spain. So we can enjoy it. We could have done our lockdown over there. We can go there in the summers, etc. So activity's bouncing back in that way, which is really, really good. It's very positive. How positive is it? Positive for the long term? That's a different question, because what you've got is you've got a lot of government support right now in terms of furlough scheme, business support schemes that have kept things afloat and kept things going, right? When that's taken away, which is over the next 2 to 3 months, that's when we're going to see the real impact. And you know, where will things go? Let's see. But overall, if you look at, apart from GDP contracting, if you look at all the economic indicators, if you look at the stock market, things are very positive.
It's crazy that you went straight into it. I was thinking, wow, like it's straight knowledge from day one. But there are people that may be watching this thinking, who's this handsome, suited and booted guy? He must be someone successful. He must have businesses and things like that. Whilst there will be a lot of people that know who you are, why don't you go into a little bit about who Z is, what do you do, what your businesses are, and that kind of thing? Okay,
so where do you want me to start from? Where would you like? What parts do you want me to tell? I could, you know, you said tell everyone who Z is, so I could start from when I was born. What do you want me to tell?
Okay, so first off, what do you currently do in terms of business?
Okay, all right. Okay, so let's talk about the right now and the last few years. So I've got a number of companies. Right now I've got 3 companies which I am running myself. In a CEO capacity. We have, I'll start with, we've got One Capital. One Capital is sort of, you could say it's like a family office. So my own money, I invest it into various property deals, buying properties, renovating them, renting them out. We don't deal with any third-party capital so far. It's all my own money that I have and other family members who work with me. That's a whole different topic. We can go into that separately. And we invest in different, mainly property-related things, but we've also ventured into tech recently. So invested in a couple of startups within the education sector and looking at a couple of new investments as well, again, within the tech startup sector. Apart from that, we're very soon launching our own startup as well, which I'll tell you off record when the cameras are off. I'll tell you more about it, because we're not ready to sort of go public with it yet, but that's something else that's coming soon. So that's sort of One Capital for you. It's my own investment arm where we make predominantly real estate investments, but now we've moved into tech stuff as well, both as principal, where it's my own companies and our own businesses, and both we're investing into other companies as well. Then we've got One Investments. One Investments is the business that has been around the longest. One Investments is the market leader in the UK for property in Dubai. So people from the UK wanting to buy an overseas home in Dubai, One Investments is the broker for that. At One Investments, we're not a developer ourselves, we're not an investor ourselves, we are just a middleman and a broker. So we bridge that gap between people looking to buy a property in Dubai, based out of the UK and recently USA as well, and helping them buy their property, their second home in Dubai. So in that regard, we help we do about 300 to 400 transactions a year. So 300 to 400 people buying properties in Dubai. That's how many transactions that does. We've won several awards over there, where we've run number one international broker for Dubai's number one real estate company for 3 years running. So that's a good business. It does well. On the other hand, what else One Investments does is we bring investment from the Gulf region, so the Middle East, into London. So we deal with a lot of properties in prime central London, tickets anywhere starting from £1 million up to biggest transaction we've done is probably 17-18 million pounds for a single property. Wow. So that's people from the Middle East looking to invest or buy properties, second homes in London. So it's Western money, UK, US, going to Dubai and getting that Dubai money and bringing it to London. That's what One Investments does. Then we have another company which is CPIC Global. That's my newest company, been around about 3 years now. There are 5 million people of Pakistani origin who live outside of Pakistan. They live between the Middle East, Europe and North America predominantly. Every year they send back around about $35 billion to Pakistan, of which around about 20% goes into real estate. So about $7 billion goes into real estate from the diaspora, the 5 million people. There's no company in the market that was catering to them. So this $7 billion that's going back every year, they're going to your typical local developers who are developing in Pakistan. Some of them good, some of them bad, some of them average, some of them very, very bad, right? And so we were like, right, okay, let's I saw that gap in the market, and we created a company which specializes in developing real estate for overseas Pakistanis and delivering it to overseas Pakistanis with the level of service and level of and product, what is the word for it? Product presentation, packaging, the way that Westerners are used to. So typically when you buy a property in Pakistan from a local developer, you'll go and buy these things called files. And then what you buy a file or you buy an allotment letter, and it's basically like a reservation form. So you're not guaranteed got a property, but you've bought this form, and then one day in the future, let's say a year later, 2 years later, they have an allotment and balloting process. So all those forms go into some sort of ballot and you get a lucky draw and you may or may not get a property.
Wow.
Yeah, weird. But there's reasons behind it. There's fundamental reasons why the market operates like that. However, we came in and the first thing I did was we introduced the standards of what you'd expect in the West, where you come to us on day one, you say, right, this is the property I want, this is the price of it, and that's what you get. In those scenarios over there, you may not even get a property, or if you got one, you were like, right, I wanted a house or a plot next to the park, and I end up getting next to the graveyard. You haven't got a choice, you just get given it. Wow, so those little things, we're introducing Western standards of professionalism, Western standards that people from here expect to Pakistan's real estate market. We launched that business about 3 years ago. We've now got probably over 2,000 clients who bought real estate through us over there. We've got about 3,000 properties under development. So it's been there's been a great uptake for it. It's been a great business, and it's been growing annually, and it's just going to go from strength to strength now.
Amazing. So I'm sure obviously people listening now, watching, they're thinking, sounds very lucrative, sounds very exciting. And I think even the way you present yourself online is you always want to give value, but you also are very humble, the way you come across. Now, only for the benefit of value, if you're happy to do so, I would like you to kind of go into a little bit more detail about the kind of numbers you're operating on, the level that you're operating on, just so that people really understand that, wow, what this guy is saying can really benefit me. And it's not just he's got successful businesses, but really the scale, the level that you're operating on.
Okay, so what you're talking about. We'll start backwards now from CPIC. We've got about $500 million worth of projects under development. So that's about, 400 million sterling. We've got new projects which are launching, which will significantly increase that. And hopefully, the portfolio will start with a B in the years to come, very soon. Then One Investments, we're talking about probably about 50 million in transactions in Dubai every year, sterling. And you're talking about probably a similar amount of transactions into the UK, so that's about 100 million in terms of sales every year that does. And then One Capital, the investments we're making typically they range from we look at blocks of in the real estate space. We look at blocks of apartments where you've at least got 10 apartments and up to 50. So anybody can estimate, what sort of value they are. So 10 to 50 apartments. We look to buy real estate where it needs renovation. It might be a commercial property that we convert to residential. We generally prefer residential. We're also looking at student as well. Anywhere from 10 to 50 units. And now we're looking at some bigger sites as well where there's 200-300 units. But that is everything we do over there. Nothing we sell. It's all buy, renovate, rent. Buy, renovate, rent.
And that's the model. Okay. So I can see in your office, they won't be able to see it most likely, but they can see on your Instagram a great statement, something that you probably are working towards, and it says future billionaire. I've had this conversation with a few friends recently as well, that at what point do you even kind of have the audacious kind of thing in your head where you're like, I don't want to be a millionaire, I want to be a billionaire, to the point where it's not frequent at all. It doesn't happen often in people's lifespans. So at what point did that thing on your wall, the canvas on your wall, make sense to you that, look, this is what I'm working towards?
That the canvas was a gift from a friend, a dear friend, close friend, and I think he put some thought into it before giving it. He's a good businessman himself, and the fact that I actually put it up on the wall was more so because he's my friend, and I was like, he's giving it to me now, so I should. But if it wasn't within reach, if I couldn't see it on the horizon, then I wouldn't have put it on there. Does that make sense?
Wow.
No?
Got goosebumps.
Nah, it's within reach, I can see it, that's why it's there. But you've got to be realistic in life. There's no point if you're dead broke and saying, right, I'm striving to be a billionaire and going around telling everyone I'm going to be a billionaire. It's like, first learn how to make tens of thousands, then learn how to make hundreds of thousands, then millions, and then you understand the process.
And then obviously eventually you can look at the next
exactly level. You need to, it's easier said than done, there's a lot that goes into it.
So obviously you've spoken about what you do and the kind of level that you're operating on, which is amazing. I think people are now kind of really understanding, okay, Z is not a joke. He's a hugely successful individual, someone that they can really benefit from. But at this point, let's go back a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about your appearance on The Apprentice, for anyone that hasn't seen or is aware that you were on The Apprentice. But I kind of want to go a little bit back in terms of where you first started in business, in your journey to entrepreneurship. I think that would be a really, really interesting story to hear.
Okay. What do you want to like?
So at what age and at what point did you decide, okay, I'm not going to go down the typical route of employment?
Interesting. Okay. So the first part is, I think, my first entrepreneurial experience, let's say.
Yeah.
Right? So my first entrepreneurial experience was probably when I was about 10 years old. So I had an interesting, or maybe 11, from what I can remember, unless I was doing something before that. Now, I had an interesting upbringing because I was born here and I lived here until I was about 8 years old. And then my family moved to Pakistan and I obviously moved back with them. And I was there from 8 until 19. I did my A-levels over there. So I used to love dogs when I was younger. So we had a family dog, which was like a little like poodle sort of kind of dog. And I said to my parents, I said, look, I want 2 pit bulls. And they were like, we're not going to get you them. They're too expensive, blah, blah, blah. I think at that time they were like probably around about 50,000 rupees each, which in those days probably about $1,000 each, because you had to import them. So $2,000 to get the 2 of them. So then I hatched up a plan. So I thought, we've got this female poodle. Down the road there was a male poodle owned by someone else. So I went over there, took my female poodle over and went and spoke to the chowkidar at the house, the gatekeeper, and said, look, your guys up for like making this happen, because my girl's on it. And they were like, all right, I'll ask the bosses, the owners of the dog, and we'll let you know. So I went back a couple of days later and he said, that they're not agreeing. They said they don't want to. All right, okay. So I kept in touch with him. Because I used to then take the dog out for a walk. I used to love every evening. I come back from school, have my lunch, and by the time it was like 4 o'clock, when the sun starts to go down, 5 o'clock, I'd be out walking around and I'd know everyone in the neighborhood, right? Just weird what I used to do. I don't know why I would do it, but that was me. And I'd be on my own with my dog. And so I made friends with this guy. I used to go chill with him outside. And then eventually the owners of the house, they went away on holiday for the summer. So he's like, look, you know what, they're away, I'll sort this out, bring the dog over. So brought the dog over, went dropped her off there. She stayed there a couple of days. They did what they had to do. Dog came back pregnant. And my plan was, right, so I've now done this little venture, they're gonna have puppies, I'm gonna sell all the puppies that come and go and buy the dogs. So things went to plan. She gets pregnant, however months later, has the puppies. Now all of a sudden what happens is I'm getting ready to advertise in the newspaper to sell the puppies. My brothers and sisters come. I've got 2 sisters and a brother. They put a claim in. They're like, it's a family dog, you got to share the money out. Like, what the hell do you mean, man? I'll put some graft in for this. This is not a joke. You know what I'm saying? I've been putting some shifts in. I've made friends with the housekeeper, down the road. What the hell is this all about? So then anyways, my parents had to intervene and negotiate it out, and I think I had to give them a little bit out of it. And then I advertised the dogs in the newspaper, sold them, and went and got the dogs that I wanted. And that became a little bit of a venture, actually. Some parts of it a little bit grey. So, I shouldn't admit this. What I used to do was, some people were like moving abroad, and they'd advertise looking for a loving home for our dog. I'm moving abroad. And I'd turn up there and, give them the pitch and everything. Little boy turns up, 12, 13 years old, and they give the dogs away for free. I'd take them and I'd advertise it next week and sell that same dog.
Entrepreneurial at that age.
It's terrible, but yeah. So I used to do those little stunts like that, which I probably shouldn't have admitted. But anyways, so we've got to give some fire content to definitely. You guys. And then, so your question was, that was me trying to fulfill a need, right? I needed something and I had to find a way to do it. And I think in that regard I have to thank my parents a lot, because they really made us independent very young. I remember at like 12 years old, we had family in South Africa. My brother was 7 years old, I was 12, and they sent us on a flight on our own over there. I'm there lugging the 7-year-old around with me. I'm 12, taking him to South Africa from Pakistan, from Karachi, South Africa, with an indirect flight, going somewhere, stopping in an airport, going next place, flying back on our own, etc. So from a very young age, they made us very independent, very, very independent. And that was a real blessing, I think. When I look in hindsight, that counted for a lot. With regard to being an entrepreneur, I think that journey worked backwards. I just knew from as far as I can remember that I just didn't like average. I just didn't like what's normal. I don't like the status quo, especially watching my parents working 9 to 5, right? And still being sort of like, just making ends meet, and can we have this, can we not, can we buy this, can we not, I was like, fuck that, man, I'm not living that life. So I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I just knew that's not what I wanted to be, right? I didn't want to be just working my ass off to make ends meet. So then as time progressed and things went on, then obviously, I was like, where can you want to live a good life, you want to do great things, you've got this inner belief inside you that you're made to do something great. So entrepreneurship seemed like the place to be.
Mm-hmm. So obviously you mentioned that your parents were a huge testament to the initial starting point, but at the same time the skill set was within you, and obviously doing those things that you were doing, like getting the dogs and all of that kind of stuff, that was within you, and it was probably innate, right?
I don't know. I think, look, the fact that they gave us so much independence made us at a very young age learn a lot about ourselves, right? Our strengths, our weaknesses, what can you do and what can't you do? Because when you're left to your own devices, right? Both my parents worked full time, right? So we were home alone. We'd come home from school, we were home alone, and we'd travel alone. We'd do so much shit alone that we were just self-sufficient. So it was just second nature that, okay, parents said no to getting a dog, let me figure out how to do it myself. Because when I get home from school every single day, my parents aren't around. I've got to figure it out myself. So I think it's not often about being born with a certain mind or being born with a certain attitude or intellect. It's the situations that you get put in that teach you things.
And in hindsight, they become a blessing.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then fast forward a little bit, you're growing up, you've got this entrepreneurial spirit inside of you, you've decided you don't want to follow the status quo. At what point did you then go from just kind of fulfilling needs to actually creating a business that was self-sustaining to a certain extent, and it was actually going to start changing your life?
So the first, I was always dabbling, like while I was at university I was dabbling into business. I was doing different things, promoting like club nights and parties and stuff like that while I was at uni. Then I left uni and I didn't finish it, and I moved out to Dubai, working in Dubai real estate. That was booming at the time. It was a sales job, so again, that's pretty entrepreneurial. It's pretty self-motivating. You get a salary, but a very low salary. Even at times I had no salary. I've done door-to-door, by the way. I've done door-to-door selling as well, where you get no salary, you're knocking on people's door. We were selling them I think Sky Television, right? So I used to do that kind of stuff. And then when came the point that I got a business which is like, I thought, right, it's taking off. Man, you know what it is? Like, I couldn't tell you what stage that would be, but it's all part of the journey. It's all part of getting there. You've got to fall over, you've got to fail, you've got to get things wrong. I say this a lot of the time. I see business as like, think about a baby learning to walk, right? So what happens is a baby first tries to stand up and falls over. The first time they fall over, they realize that I put too much weight on my left foot, and that's why I fell to the left. So next time they get up, they try and put more weight on the right foot to balance out. And eventually they're like, this is how you take a step, and they fall over. Okay, I took a step, but then I leaned forward too much and I fell over, and they get up and they learn how to take another step. So that trial and error process is how they learn to walk. And that's business for you as well, right? So unless you're born into a business family, and you're born into a family where you've been taught what being an entrepreneur is all about from birth, you're going to have to learn it yourself. And the only way to learn it is to roll your sleeves up and get involved. You're going to fail again, and you're going to fail again, and you're going to fail again. And you just got to take that on the chin, because that's part of the process. I think a lot of people have this illusion about success, that people who are successful are really blessed and they're just super intelligent, and they're different, they're cut from a different cloth. That's what I used to think as well, right? I used to think, man, these guys are like just super duper, and there's something else about them, And yes, but you need to have talents, but everyone has got talents. It's just about exploring those talents. But more than anything else, the most important thing to be successful is to, number one, decide that you're sick of where you are, right? That I ain't staying where I am. I'm getting the fuck out of here. Excuse my language, right? Secondly, I'm willing to make sacrifices, right? To do that. I'm willing to put myself in uncomfortable situations, right? And most importantly, perseverance. That I am going to fall over. It is going to go wrong. It's going to feel like the whole world's falling apart and I'm in the worst situation in the world. But that's part of the process. What the difference between a successful entrepreneur and an entrepreneur who's not so successful, or somebody who started entrepreneurship and dropped out, is that when those really testing time comes, when you feel like there is no way out and the whole world is caving upon you and you are in the worst position in the world, that's where you've got to get through those times. And after those times, when you get through them, that's when the good times start. So when you said to me at the beginning of this that, look, you know, Z, you come across quite humble on social media, I think it's not just me. If you look at 99% of genuine entrepreneurs, they're humble. And the reason why they're humble, actually 99% of entrepreneurs who are in the mid stage of their careers are humble. When they get to a certain stage, you see arrogance appear because they think they're too big and too strong now, right? But in the mid stage of their careers, 99% of genuine entrepreneurs are humble because they know the shit they've been through. They know how close they were to just everything falling apart, right? And they know that fine line between success and failure.
Wow, that's crazy. So then at that point, you've been working in Dubai, you've done the sales thing, you've kind of understood yourself as well as an adult.
Sorry to interrupt you for a second. I'll tell you a very good example over here for your young viewers who want to be entrepreneurs, who want to start their business journey, about the small differences. Me and one of my friends, I left university and I found this opportunity of working in Dubai property. I had no sales experience in my life, never sold anything, right? My friend, who was a year or so older than me, he'd been working at a sales company locally over there. My family's really from Doncaster in the north of England, right? He'd be working in that sales company and he was like a team leader. He was number one sales and he became a team leader over there, a couple of years older than me. So I said to him, look, bro, I'm moving out. I'm going to Dubai. This is what's going on over there. This is the kind of money that people are making, 10, 12 grand a month. Still a huge amounts of money. But back then for me, it was like, what the hell? That's like crazy amounts of money. I was like, I'm going out there. You come with me too. And this thing of conversation was on like a midweek, so I think it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and I'd researched it over the last week before that. So a week I'd researched it, found the opportunity, spoke to my friends over there. Tuesday, Wednesday, I'd made up my mind, I'm going. I told this guy, this is what I'm doing, bro, come with me, let's go together, let's go smash it, right? He was like, yeah, I'm in for sure, 100%, let's go do it. Okay, cool. So I'm like, okay, 2 of us are going. A day or 2 goes by, I called him, I said, look, I booked my flight for Saturday, right? And I'm leaving on Saturday, I'm just packing all my shit, I'm getting out of here, I'm going there. And he's like, okay, bro, you go, and I'm going to come a couple of days after you, right? I'm just sorting a few bits out. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm going to be there. Okay, great. It's been 14 years since that day, 13, 14 years, he's still in Doncaster. Those 2 days never got up. Yeah? Take action. That's, if there's one thing in the beginning part of my career that I credit to pushing me forward or getting me anywhere, I was fearless. I just did everything. Anything I thought about, I'd do it. If you came to a 20-year-old me and you're like, look, Z, I'm working in the digital marketing space in San Francisco. I'm killing it over there right now. Someone like you could do well, bro. And you're like, today's Wednesday, I'm leaving tomorrow evening to go there. Come with me, you'll make money. But I would be with you tomorrow, right? That was just the character that I was and the character that I am. So you've got to jump at opportunities. There's so many people that I see that the only thing limiting them is they complicate things in their mind. It's like an opportunity's in front of them, but every time they get to actually pressing the button on it, themselves, right? Oh, this and that, and what if I go there and this happens, and what if this happens, and what, they're counting all the things that could go wrong. And meanwhile, the guy who's actually going to do something, he's out of there, man. He's out of there, because at the end of the day, if you've got that will and desire with you, you'll put things together, you'll make things happen. But you've got to jump at the opportunities. The worst thing to be is a guy who looks back on life and says, it could have been, it should have been. If even in a worst case scenario, fast forward 10 years from now, I'll be like, damn, man, I had one hell of a journey. I was nearly at the top. I did this, I did that. I was, if I count my stories, like, I was in Dubai, I became friends with Floyd Mayweather. Yeah, exactly, bro. He was out with me every night for a week. Yeah, got pictures, everything. Then I was working on doing the first ever major boxing event in the Middle East, I was at 23 years old, meeting with sheikhs, got funding together for the deal, Floyd Mayweather to fight with someone else. I was talking to Al Heyman, his manager, who's like huge in boxing now, who wasn't that big back then, on a day-to-day basis, putting this fight together. So, even if everything was to fall apart and, God knows, be all over the place, that's just one memory. I've got hundreds of memories of like crazy that I've done in my life. So, man, live. Go live. Make shit happen.
So you took the risk, and obviously you're really positive on taking action. But then what about those people that maybe not in his situation, the person that you left behind in Doncaster, but there's
I didn't leave him behind, bro. He didn't come.
He chose to.
I told him to come. I didn't leave him behind, bro. I was taking him. He wouldn't come.
Yeah. But in some situations, wouldn't you say that some people are not just scared of taking a risk, but there's other people that pressure them into taking a decision otherwise, in terms of, for example, like family members, peers that will say, oh, it's never going to work. And then in some cases, it's because it's your parents, for example, what do you say to them? And yeah, you may have that regret later down the line, but
I think, look, that comes to a cultural aspect of Asian community, of like, parents said, no, it's not a good move. Bro, your parents were not made in this day and age, right? They're not made for this era. You're made for this era. You start talking to your parents about digital marketing and that you're going to move to God knows what country, or you're going to start some agency that's, doing influencer marketing and selling. You're going to sell spots on people's Instagram pages. They're like, what the F are you doing? Stop wasting your life. Go start being an accountant, right?
Yeah,
are they right?
100%.
No, they're not. So you gotta get over this shit that just because they're parents, they're right. Take their advice. There's valuable advice. They've got years of experience. But at the same time, you got to make your moves, man, because at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, when it's all said and done, it's your life, right? And for parents, what they want for their children is low risk. Yeah? You go tell your parents, you've got no money, you've got nothing, your mate's telling you come out to Dubai, start selling property. They're going to be like, you might not have food to eat. Don't go, stay home, right? Which from a parent's perspective is right? But from an entrepreneur's perspective, it's wrong. So you got to take charge and don't listen. Like, I was reading the book the other day of the Netflix book, right? Of how Netflix started. Mark Randolph, he was the founder, right? He's a co-founder. And he was the first CEO as well. And when he started Netflix, everyone around him told him, it is the wackiest idea ever. It's never going to work. Today, Netflix, I think they're worth, 65 billion? So every idea is, if an idea is ahead of its time, everyone's going to tell you it's wrong. Everyone's going to tell you it's wrong. And remember this, think about this in business. Business is doing one thing. It's solving problems. There's two types of problems. There's one problem you have, yeah? And there's one problem you're solving for people, which is the biggest one, which is that rewards you most lucratively, is solving problems they don't know they have yet. Yeah? So when you got an iPhone, right? Today, that's a necessity in your life, or a smartphone. Let me not say iPhone, smartphone. It's a necessity in your life. But before that, when you had a Nokia, you didn't know that was a necessity. But there was a need there. There was a problem there. They solved that problem before you knew you had it. That's the best business you can do.
Wow. That's so true, because they kind of see something in an idea and then they launch it, and then by the time you realize, they've already got the first mover advantage.
Exactly. And especially when it comes to friends, like, again, I'm thinking about young people at this stage, because I think a lot of your questions are geared towards the youth,
100%.
young people. So I'm thinking you're like, you know, late teens, early 20s, you're going to your friends and saying, I'm about to make this move. Man, they're all going to say to you, don't make it. Even your best friend who loves you from the bottom of his heart and wants nothing but good for you will not want you to do things that go into a different space, because it makes them feel insufficient. And no matter how much somebody loves you, no matter how much they care for you, the number one person in everyone's life, the most important person in everyone's life, is themselves, right? So no matter how much me and you become best buddies, and I think you're my younger brother and I give you the best advice, but if we're both sat in a car, I'm driving it, and we're about to have an accident, human nature makes me swing away from the side that's going to hit me and swing to the side that's going to hit you.
Just instinct.
It's instinct, right? So the most important person for everyone in the world is themselves. So when you come to me, I'm your best mate, right? And we're young, and you come to me and say, look, bro, I'm moving out to God knows, I'm making this big move, I'm starting this brand new marketing company, and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. And I'm like, it makes me feel insufficient. I'm like, I'm still working at Tesco, you know, I'm still flipping burgers at McDonald's. I've worked at McDonald's, by the way. Worst place you can work. Fucking don't work there.
You missed that part of the story.
Yeah, man. Oh my god, it's the worst place. I lasted I think I worked there for a week, and I was like, guys, I'm out of here. I can't do this. It is actually.
It's like a production line.
It's a production line, man. They have the humans are like robots over there. So I had the job of flipping the burgers, bro. So literally, I would go. It'd be like this. Flip the burger. It had a timer. As soon as the timer goes, flip it again, and that was me done. Like for hours. And the grill they had, you had to pull it down, from what I remember, and it was so hot, man. Every time I'd do it, I'd burn my fingers. But anyway, so the point is that if I'm in McDonald's, right, flipping those burgers, and you're telling me that you're starting this great company, bro, me and your buddies, man, I don't want you to go somewhere else, to a different league in life, to a different place. I want you to stay with me. So it's not even that I want bad for you.
Yeah.
I just want you to stay with me. So I'm like, nah, bro, you know, you're good, bro. The Tesco job is good. Don't go. Stay at Tesco. You know, you can become a line manager at Tesco. Why are you trying to go out there? So you've got to do things yourself, man. You've got to do things yourself.
So you obviously silenced the noise around you. I mean, you probably had a support as well, but you took the risk.
I didn't even silence noise, bro. I did not listen to anyone.
So did you have no negative opinions when you made that decision?
Of course, but I don't listen to no one. I just did not listen. It was just like people, of course, I can't even remember what people said, but I can guarantee you when I was doing this shit, there were people around me saying, this is absurd, what are you doing? You've got no money, well, how are you going? What are you going to do? Blah, blah, blah. But I just, when I got something in my mind that I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Simple as that.
And you did.
Yeah.
You executed it, you got to Dubai, you did well, and then what happened?
We'll come into that in a second. I just want to finish one part. There's one part of entrepreneurship which people ignore a lot, and entrepreneurship is glorified a lot these days. But everything I'm telling you about, there's one key denominator in all of this, right? What does it all lead to? Have you noticed it? Loneliness, being alone.
Yeah.
Because everybody that was with you, your friends, your family, all those people who you grew up with, who were close to you, you've gone against the grain and done something that they all didn't want you to do. So you end up in a very lonely place where it's just you. You don't have anybody to discuss your problems with, because they're all the people who told you don't do it. So you can't go to them and say, look, what's going wrong.
And even if you do, they can't understand.
No, they'll tell you I told you so. Even if they can understand, for argument's sake, let's just say they can, they've got enough intellect that they're not in the situation but they can understand it, they'll say I told you so. When you come to your darkest hours, you still can't discuss that with anyone, because you chose that path which no one went down. You chose that path which is the least walken path, where everyone was going left, everyone was going right, and you said I'm gonna go left, right? So it's a lonely place, especially in the worst of times. That's why I say perseverance is so important. Sorry, your question.
Yeah, so no, it's very true what you said, because even me, like when I've been in business, it's been a lonely journey, and obviously I'm just starting out to a certain extent, but there's days where you don't know who to turn to, and you just have to turn to yourself and look within and try to find the solution within yourself.
We need more mentor programs. You know, there's like everyone talks about it's important to have a mentor. It's important to have a mentor.
But how do you find them?
Where do you find a mentor, bro? Tomorrow, you're like, right, you know what? I'm starting my career. I want a mentor. Where do you find that mentor? How do you get a mentor?
This was me being creative, finding mentors.
Yeah.
I found some mentors along the way, and
but
it helped.
not everyone's you.
It's true.
And not everyone, like, you know, has the opportunity to, you know, go around and move around and invest in mics and etc.
But at the same time, I truly believe that you have to be creative, because whilst it's difficult to find mentors and people along the way, it's easier than it was 10, 20 years ago, where
it's true.
You couldn't even get into a room with certain people.
There you go.
So I think you have to like search along
100%,
the way.
100%.
But yeah, back to the story. There's loads of value along the way. I can already feel it. But you've gone to Dubai. You've made it work. That's obviously a sales job. How do you then transition beyond that?
I just noticed, man, that okay, I'm making, because I was like 21 years old, and literally within a couple of months of being in Dubai, I was making being involved with Dubai real estate, I was making 10, 15, even 20 grand a month sometimes, right? It's going from a broke student doing little club nights, making like $1,000 a month, right, to all of a sudden making 10, 15, 20 grand a month. And the funny thing is that you'd think that, oh shit, this guy who's making $1,000 a month, he's now making 10, 15, 20, so that means that he's gonna be saving 9 grand or whatever it comes to every month. But I was making 10, spending 12, right? So I then, which was a huge blessing for me, I made a circle of friends who were very, very wealthy, right? Who are very wealthy people. And I started socializing with them, and I started seeing that, shit, man, you know what I have isn't really that much. I thought I'm fucking rich, but really I ain't got shit, you know? So then I was like, so how do you get that? And then it's like, okay, so these are the guys who are paying my wages, basically, you know? I work for someone like this. Do you get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the thing came from. So I just knew in my head, right, I've got to start my own business. I've got to do my own thing. If I'm going to make any significant money that's lasting, I've got to do it myself.
Let's talk about your employment a little bit before obviously we go into the story of you starting some of the
I was a very
bigger
bad
projects.
I was a very bad employee.
But at the same time, you were making really good money. And where I'm going with this is, there's a lot of young people out there where, like, people even message me all the time and say, oh, you started your first business at this age or whatever. But the reality is that I was always working in retail. I was working in door to door. I was working in sales. I was doing all of that kind of stuff. And my side projects, side hustles, I was doing it at night or where I had free time. And then eventually I was able to take that leap in being a full-time entrepreneur. But there is money in being employed. There is money in working for someone, and it can be a stepping stone to get to where you want to. So for anyone that just wants to completely avoid that, and maybe it's their ego, maybe it's their pride, whatever it may be, and they just want to be successful straight away, what do you say to those people?
Go do it, man. If you think you can do it, then go do it. Yeah, seriously. You can be whatever you want to be. You can achieve whatever you believe you can achieve. But if you're like, I don't want to work for no one, I'm gonna go. I'm better than everybody. I'm gonna go straight to entrepreneurship. Go for it.
But you have to be willing to make that sacrifice along the way if you want to do that.
Of course.
Okay, interesting. So let's go back now to, you thought, okay, I'm going to do it myself. I'm making money. I want to be on the level of my bosses, and I want to now do my own thing. How did you even begin starting that?
So it was, I came back from Dubai. Property market crashed, right? Let me try and put this all into sequence now, man.
Now you're really thinking. Got you thinking.
Fuck. Yeah, I think. Yeah, Dubai property market crashed. That's right.
What year was this, if you remember?
Man, probably 08. I'd like to say.
So global crash.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And Dubai property market crashed.
Mm-hmm.
I still had a little bit of money, luckily, and I came back to the UK. And met up with one of my friends who I used to work with in Dubai property, and he introduced, and at that time I started pitching a business idea to everyone, right? I was like, I've got a business idea which was property related, and he said, look, let me take you to some people and that'd be a great introduction for you. He introduced me to these people, I pitched them the idea, they liked it, they backed it, they invested, and ended up living in Spain for a year, and working with distressed real estate out there. And that was my first business that these other guys funded. And it was funny because the initial business I pitched to them, they didn't go for it, but I was still lingering around the area, meeting with them every single day. And eventually, you know, they were like, okay, you know what, we've got this thing going on in Spain, we've got some contacts over there, why don't you go there, we'll set you up over there, you go do the business over there. That was it. And so the funny thing was that really I could have been an employee, but I was pitching myself as, now I've come for a partnership. Do you get what I mean? Really, I was an employee. It was my idea initially, which they took my idea, changed it up, put their contacts in, and sent me basically to something that was their own business. They invested in it. More my idea, it was theirs with my twist on it, but I was 50% on that because I was just asking for that.
Mm-hmm.
So people like, you know, somebody can come in for a job and say, right, you know what, I'm looking for 20 grand a month, that's my salary. Oh, you got to have something to back it, but that's what you consider for it then. You'll be like, right, this guy's worth 20 grand. Somebody can walk in and say, right, I'm looking for 2 grand a month, and you're like, okay, this guy's a 2 grand guy. So you get what you ask for. And I just started asking people that I'm looking to start a business. Had I ever started a business before? No. Did I have money to start a business? No. But I knew I needed to get into business, and that became my pitch.
And then when was the turning point along the way? Because I know obviously from your story that maybe people don't know, but obviously then you eventually got to the point where you led it to a successful business.
No, that's
oh, that's a separate one.
I've not even got there yet.
Oh,
we're still
wow.
years away from. We're 5 years away from
because that was also
we're 5
someone
years away.
funded you.
We're 5 years away from that.
Okay.
Yeah. So then what's happened is, so I've gone to Spain. It didn't work out. I spent just shy of a year over there. Didn't work out. Ended up getting a job. So I was about 23 years old, 24, maybe 23, going on 24, getting a job. Got a job, 70 grand a year, right? Lasted for 4 months because I just could not take orders, man. And the boss I had was nutty. Nice guy, good heart, but nutty. He was an accountant, chartered accountant turned property guy. Oh my god, bro, you're just a nutcase. Super like OCD, right? In his working environment, like isn't not as in like keep the office clean, that yes, but also the way he organized things and filed things. So that lasted about 3 months, and how that ended was literally me and him having a fight.
Wow.
Yeah, face to face, going swearing at each other, and I didn't have anything else to do, but I was like, I'm out of this guy. And what eventually happened is I ended up back home in my parents' house in Pakistan, and at that point is when I started working on this Floyd Mayweather thing, right? And because I'd met Floyd about probably a year before that in Dubai, and then I sort of putting in through my friend, me and my friend were chilling with him together, and my friend had his email address, and friend emailed him and said, look, we're looking to put together a boxing event in the Middle East. He was like, sure, send me a number. Got on the phone with Floyd, he connected us to Al Heyman, and that whole thing kicked off. And I was working on that for about 3 months, put together a business proposal, traveled to Dubai, met with the sheikhs, got the funding for the event as well. But in the end, basically what we'd been pitching as an event to the sheikhs was a profit-making venture, and main revenue comes from pay-per-view. So the fight would be in Abu Dhabi, it was going to be in, but it would be a big fight which would do pay-per-view revenue in the US, whereas what Floyd wanted was him to fight Ricky Hatton's brother, Matthew Hatton, which is an absolute nobody then and now, which would have been an exhibition bout, and he wanted $20 million for that. So what I was pitching versus what they were wanting to do was two completely different things. That fell apart, And then my dad came to me one day, and it's been about 6 months I've been around there working on this Floyd thing and etc. And he was basically giving me pocket money then. I was back on pocket money from my dad, about 24 years old. And he came to me one day and he's like, look, here's a single one-way ticket to London, and here's £500 cash. And this was like a Thursday, and the ticket was for Saturday. He says, leave this house, and you're not welcome to come back here. Forget that you've got a family. Forget that you've got anybody. You're not welcome to come in this house unless you're standing on your own 2 feet. I don't want any of this shit anymore. And yeah, then I came to London. So that was like, I was angry, man, then. And I was like hurt. I was like, man, your parents are supposed to look after you. You know, mine can give me £500 and put me on the street and said, don't come home. What the am I supposed to do? Right? But I was always very, like, you know, proud as well. So I didn't say anything. I took it on the chin. I was like, you know what, watch. And so I moved to London. And on the Friday, I'd searched a place to rent, and I found a place in Plaistow. It was on at £450 a month. I had £500 cash. It was on at £450. I thought, bang. I thought I'm going to go blag this guy, right, that I don't have any money, deposit anything. Just give him 1 month's rent and move in. That's, at least I've got a place for a month, and I can figure it out from there. So literally landed with my suitcase, everything, went to Plaistow, got to this house, and the guy was called Shipon. Bangladeshi guy, really nice guy, cool guy. What he'd done was he'd converted the back of the property. He had like a garage, and he'd converted that garage into a studio. This studio was a size that if I put my arms like this, I can touch both walls. I swear to God, I'm not joking. Like this, I can touch both walls, right? This office it was a third of this office. Wow. Right? So you could fit 3 of them in this office. That was including the bathroom, including the kitchen. What? So I said to him, as soon as I got there, I was like, look, I've only got £450 for you. The rent, I'll pay you up front, right? But I haven't got no deposit. He was like, don't worry about it, man. I was ready with my story to give him the whole story, but he was like, nah, don't worry about it. And I moved in there. And then I had £50 left over. I think I went and bought some groceries, and I went and printed out a load of CVs. I think I printed out like 100 CVs or 50 CVs. And the next morning, Monday, got there on Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember. Monday, got ready, put my suit on, and I was like, right, I'm not coming home today until I have a job. The first place I went to with my CV, I got a job, right? And after that, I was just gutted. I was like, for fuck's sake, man, I got 49 CVs I printed. That cost me like £20. Man, I only needed 1. Yeah.
So what was the job?
Sales job. And I lasted in that job probably about 3-4 months. But then I didn't leave that job, and I was a good employee there, I'd say. But what happened was, one of the guys that I used to work with in Spain, he contacted me and he said, look, Z, I'm looking to start up a business. I've got some money. I want you to set it up. I want you to run it, you to do everything. And I'll give you 50% for that. No, I asked him. I said, yeah, okay, I'll do it, but I want 50%. He said, take 50%, right? And that's where the company at the time was called Prestige Brokers. That's where that started from. And that's the company that evolved and became One Investments. So you're talking about 2011, 9 years ago. So 9 years ago, I came to London with £500 in my pocket. That was it. Nothing else.
So then along the way, you obviously built
so what happened is so Prestige Brokers did really well. I bought my partner out.
This is the one I was talking about.
I bought my partner out. Now I own it 100% now. He's happy. He made some money. I run the whole business. I'm probably about 26 years old then. I had about 13, 14 staff. Probably selling around about, I'd say, £25 million worth of real estate every year. It was a brokerage. And then somebody gave me actually it was my cousin, who you did the podcast with, Azam. He gave me
He's your cousin?
Yeah.
No way.
First cousins.
No way.
Yeah, we're first cousins.
Wow. So this entrepreneurial spirit runs in the family.
Yeah, it seems like it now.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we're first cousins.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So he gave me the bright. He's I think he's 5 years older than me, so he's an older cousin. So he gave me this bright idea. He said, "Oh, bro, you need to go on The Apprentice. You'll win." I was like, "All right, okay." So I ended up applying for The Apprentice. I only watched it once. So I've applied for The Apprentice, and long story cut short, I've ended up getting on the show. I've got onto the show, and then I was away for about 7 weeks, I think, in the filming of it. So before I left, I went to my team, and I had to, you can't tell anybody you're going on, but I had to tell them, because you're not allowed any phone calls, you're not allowed out, you're completely secluded in that apprentice house with no outside contact with the world. So I went and explained to a couple of the senior guys that this is what I'm doing, I'm going on to The Apprentice and blah blah blah, and I'll be back in however much time it takes me. So when I came back to the office after 7 weeks, I came to the office, and I remember I got there at like 10 a.m. on the day, and the entire office was empty. There was like 3 people sitting in the office, with like 3 of like the really junior staff, and I was like, where are the rest of the guys? And they were all like, oh, we don't really know where they are and all this. I started making a few phone calls, and I called one of the developers we worked with. We were working with some properties in Spain and in the Czech Republic, in Prague as well. And I called some of the developers and banks that we worked with just to check up on how things are going, because we sell property for them, right? And they were all like being quite hostile with me on the phone. I was like, this is a bit weird, man. And one of them I was close to, so when I spoke to him, he's like, got angry with me. Z, you just disappeared on everyone, and you've left everyone, and you've gone, and blah blah blah. And what I find out is that literally the day after I left, all of my senior team, yeah, these are all guys who were like 7-8 years older than me, who I taught this business to. When they came to me, they weren't even from property. I taught them the business, I taught them how it's done. Literally the day I've left, the next day they've all gone to Spain, gone and spoken to the developers and banks that we deal with, and said, Zeeshan's missing, we've got no idea where he is. All these clients, we had probably about £500,000 worth of revenue backed up, or 700 grand worth of revenue backed up. All of these clients are ours, they're not Z's. He's disappeared, we can't get hold of him. So obviously those are like, oh shit, really? Don't worry, he will appear in a few days. They've tried to contact me for like 6-7 weeks, like literally this guy's done a runner, right? Wow. So they've gone and told them some story about God knows what, that he's run away for XYZ reasons and all this.
But they knew. That's the sad part.
So they played the game, they stole the business. So now what's happened is then that they've said all these clients are ours. While I'm away, they've got all the clients. What happens in property is you reserve a property. Like, so if you're going to buy a property from me today, you're going to give me a couple of grand to reserve it, and then you've got like 30 days, 45 days to exchange. On exchange, you pay 20%, 30% of the property price. So they've got all those clients. They've started getting them exchanged, started taking the money themselves, etc. So I basically come out to learn that they've not only have my entire company's senior hierarchy, along with all the top people, deserted me, but they've stolen all the revenue that we generated over the last 4 or 5 months, which was like, 5 to 700 grand, I can't remember the exact number, left me in a couple of $100 grand worth of debt, right? And I'm there to pick up all the pieces on my own now.
And this was all after The Apprentice.
I literally came out of filming The Apprentice, and this is what I found out the next day.
So at that point you must have been like, okay, cool, like, I've come out of The Apprentice, I've done pretty well, gone on TV, look into my business, and it's like, there is no business.
There is no business. And in matter of fact, you came here 4 years ago, you had £500, you built it up all this way, where you sort of, you've got like a company that's worth £4 or £5 million, it's now worth 0. You're actually you've got debts worth of 300 grand.
So at that point, were
you 400 grand even?
Were you like regretful that why did I go on the show? At that point,
this is when it comes down to perseverance. This is when it comes down to lonely moments, right? Can you go to people around you who always told you, don't do this fucking mad shit, don't take these crazy routes, and don't do this abnormal things? You can't go to them and say, look, this is the situation I'm in, what do I do? Right? So that's when you're lonely. And so I assessed the situation, and honestly I did it all within a few hours. Sat at my desk that day. Before the end of the day, I decided what I was going to do. I said, you've got 3 choices over here. Your first choice is you pursue these guys legally, right? You go for them, you go to court, you go and get your money back, right? Second choice is you throw the towel in, right? And you say, you know what, I'm not good enough, right? You go and get a good job. You've got great skills. You're a great marketeer. You're a great salesperson. You've got good intelligence. You understand business well. Go get a good job. If you got a job 5 years ago at 70 grand, today you're going to get a job for double that and you can earn bonus and commission. Go get yourself a good job, man, and settle down. Just settle this shit, you know, compromise or whatever you want to call it. And then you can also pursue them in court and try and get that 200, 300, 400 grand that they owe you, whatever it was, 500, 700 grand they owe you. Or last option is forget what they did to you, put it in the past, right? Don't hold on to that negative sentiment. Rebuild this all again. Do it bigger, do it better, right? Because you know these guys had to steal your business. You've got the strength within you to do it much bigger and better than they can do it. Because they'd set up their own company, set up a new name, everything, right? And prove to the world, you know, who the real person is in this equation and who's real and who's not, who had to steal whose business. But when you look at the entire equation, you think, oh, but you could also start your own business and pursue them, or as in start again and pursue them, or you can do a job and pursue them. But things don't work. For me, in my mind, I thought things don't work in tandem. You've either got to focus on moving forward in a certain direction and forgetting the past, or focusing on the past and then you can't focus on the future. So that was the crossroads I faced. What do you think the right decision in that situation? Don't give me an answer knowing me or knowing you as an entrepreneur. What is a reasonable answer? Yeah. What is a reasonable answer for what would 8 out of 10 people do in that situation?
I think realistically,
if you ask someone sensible for a sensible answer, what would they say to you?
I think realistically they would be like, you have to fight it. You have to fight and try to get, you know, some revenue back. It's not even about spite or trying to beat them or whatever it is, but it's genuinely they've done something against business ethics or contracts or whatever it may be, and that's why you have those things in place to pursue action when it's necessary. So that's what I think the standard answer would be. I think the decision that you made, maybe not even 1 out of 10 people would have made that decision, because it was, again, going against everything. It was taking another huge risk. It was leaving all those hundreds of thousands of pounds behind, and still not knowing, is this ever going to work?
The situation was, you've got property developers and banks in Spain. You've got property developers and banks we're dealing with in Prague, right? And you've got people over here. It's a complex situation. You're talking about spending tens of thousands of pounds at least fighting them, and a lot of time and energy. And I said, you know what? Fuck all that. I'm not doing it. I'm not wasting my time and energy. I am going to put a mental block on that situation like it's never happened. I'm not even going to look in the past. I'm going to go do it bigger and better than ever. That's what I did.
And you literally, everything that you said you were going to do, you did. And you achieved to where you are now.
That was the crossroads, bro. That was the crossroads.
Huge test of character.
Because I was standing there and honestly I was like, you know what, man? Maybe you're just not good enough for this. Maybe you should just go settle and get a job. Get a good job, you'll earn good money, and fuck all this headache, right? And I was very close to making that decision. And honestly, I'm telling you, man, in that situation, when you're in that situation, and I've got the stress on top of my head, I'm like, fuck, man, I've got Apprentice going to be going live in like 6 months from now. Imagine they're going to go and look and it's got debts and this and that, and people could start coming out and saying, you know, rent people out, he ran away, he owes us rent and this, and clients and customers complaining, you know, all sorts. I was like, man, this is like the worst timing ever that this could happen, right? And I'm honestly telling you, I believe even good entrepreneurs in that situation, 7, 8 out of 10 would throw the towel in, right? Because there is a certain point where common sense also says, you know what, you're in too deep, man, step back. You can come back to this later on in life. You can get a job, learn, and maybe 5-10 years later come back to this entrepreneurship. But for me, that was a crossroads. I did not even, that day I thought about it, that night I made the decision, and from the next day onwards I did not even think about what they did to me until I was in a position so strong that was 10 times stronger than when before I went in the Apprentice. That's when I actually started to talk about it again.
So how did you, obviously that situation must have motivated
That's
you.
probably the first time I mentioned it to anybody. When I was 10 times stronger than before they stole everything, that's when I first mentioned it. By the way, this happened to me.
Wow. So how did you, like, obviously that situation must have motivated you, but at the same time it's a whole different story and starting from scratch and trying to build something, but then knowing you've built something and trying not to let the past dictate the future and really pushing forward, that must have been a whole different challenge in itself. So did you not struggle, like, do you think it was harder starting from nothing and building something, or building something from having everything and lost it all?
Look, it comes down to mindset. If you were sitting there after that all happened to you and you were holding on to negative feelings, then restarting is going to be more difficult, right? Not because the process of restarting is more difficult. The process of restarting is easier because you've already done it before. What took you 5 years will now take you 1 year because you know the steps. You know what you did wrong. You know what you did right. You've learned from all of that. You can express. But if you're sat there holding on to the negativity, then it's going to be harder because you're going to be pissed off when something doesn't go right and then I did this before and I'm doing it again now. Do you get what I mean? So that's why I had to let go of that negativity. I knew I had to let go of that and put it in the past.
So what was your biggest...
It was easier, much easier. When I put all of that, it was much easier to do it again because I knew exactly what I needed to do.
So you knew everything that you needed to do, but what was the biggest...
And what not to do as well.
So what was the biggest lesson that you took forward from that? Like, that actually allowed you to create it to tenfold?
There was a lot of corners we used to cut in doing business. I knew not to cut those corners anymore. And that was it really, man. There's nothing more that I could have done. It's those people, their intentions were bad, right? They looked at me and they thought, this guy's 26 years old. We're 5-6 years older than him. We'll do it ourselves, right? There's nothing in that situation where I can look at it and think, maybe small little things I could have changed, but if that was to happen all over again and I was the same age again and it was the same business again and I was to go on The Apprentice, 9 times out of 10 the outcome would be the same, right? All I learned was about within my own business there were certain things which I could change, which was don't cut certain corners, etc. and I changed all those things.
Did you ever cross paths with them?
Yeah, I crossed paths with one of them.
Kind words?
No, it was quite heated.
What was the situation like? How did you even come across him? Was it just in business?
Oh, bro, there's
context?
one other in the equation. So one guy who was a developer from Prague, he didn't like me, right? From day one, he didn't like me, and he's like, I'm trying to basically. He was like, oh, I don't know what's going on with all these clients. Are they yours? Are they his? It was one portion of the whole equation, right? Are they yours? Are they his? Whose are they? Blah blah blah. All this. You got to come to my office so I can sort this all out. I went to his office. His office was in North London. Went to his office, and I think he was just getting a kick out of the whole thing.
Wow.
It was literally like a year later, probably, or a year and a half later. And I did not intend on doing anything whatsoever. And then what happened was that we're having a conversation, and I didn't even look at the guy's called Steve, yeah. Who was used to be my sales director back then, and he was like talking about something, and he raised his voice a bit, like, no, it wasn't like this, and I just stood up. I was like, I just lost it.
Wow,
yeah.
That's crazy. I can't even imagine the patience you have to have in that situation.
Yeah.
But having said all that, you did what you set out to do. You built a business, multiple businesses, bigger than ever, and obviously now you are where you are today.
Mm-hmm.
And we spoke right at the beginning about that canvas. That's where you're heading towards.
Yeah.
Other than that, what kind of excites you about the future? Because a lot of people, like, they always think that, okay, at what point do you stop? Like, not stop, in terms of operating the business, but at what point do you say, okay, enough's enough? Let me throw in the towel.
You know what it is? I have this conversation quite often. Well, not quite often, but I've had it a few times. And, like, for me right now, like, the life that I live, the lifestyle that I have, I've got enough money for myself, right? And there comes a point when you have enough money, right? So everything that I want to do, anything that, like, literally right now, if there's anything that can come to my mind that I genuinely want to do, I can do it. Bar buying a private jet, and I could buy it but maybe couldn't maintain it, or buying a mega yacht for 50 million. Apart from that, anything else that I can think I want to do, I can do it. If I want to buy a Bugatti, I can buy a Bugatti Chiron, right? So everything I want to do, I can do it. So for me, so money stops becoming a motivation. In the beginning, the motivation is that I need to fucking eat, right? I need to eat. Then it's like, all right, I want to buy nice clothes. No, I want to buy a nice car. Right, I want to have a nice place to live. Then as you go on and on and on and on and on, it comes to a stage where actually, you know what, I have got everything not even everything I need, I've got everything I want as well, right? And not even for now, I've got it for the foreseeable future, right? I've got it. That's not changing. So then beyond that, then what is your motivation? Then what ticks you? And for me, it's legacy. It's about doing shit that makes an impact, that really, you know, it's outside the box, it's different, it changes the world. That's what interests me now. That's the things that make me still want to work really hard, right? I still have to work regardless, but what makes you want to work really hard and put the time in, what excites me is that. What excites me is doing shit that no one's done before.
Wow. So much to take in from this podcast. I think this is one that everyone can learn from.
But there's levels and stages, man. Like, if I was saying this same stuff, if I wasn't even thinking these things 5 years ago, I was thinking how I'm going to survive and get through, right? Or 7 years ago, whatever it was, right? So don't, like, for example, if someone's listening to this, don't listen to anything, oh man, that's miles away. Time flies, man. I'm 35. I feel like it was yesterday that I'm telling these stories. They feel like they were like 2 years ago this was happening to me. That 2 years ago I left university. It's been since I left university, it's been 15 years, you know? But what I have done throughout those 15 years is work. That's what I've done. So time flies, and before you know it, you'll be in a place, and I'm telling you from experience. You know, 9 years ago, I had nothing. I came here with £500, right? And I could not, in my wildest dreams, if someone came to me around that time and said, Zeeshan, fast forward 9 years from now, and you're going to have this, and this. I don't want to name things, but, you know, this is the sort of life you're going to live. I'd go mental. I'd be jumping up and down like a lunatic saying, what the is going to happen? Am I going to win the lottery? What's about to happen to me, right? So it's crazy how life can take you to places that you want to go. It will take you where you want to go, but just if you have faith in the process and you work towards it. But everything you're seeing, if you look at this office and you look at the way the office is laid out, if you look at the cars that I drive, the life that I live, the places that I go, the suits that I wear, if you asked me about these 10 years ago, I could have given you them all in a wish list. So it's funny how life gives you exactly what you want as well.
Manifestation.
I don't know, man. I've never really been into one that's like, you know, that I've been stood there repeating to myself, but it just happened that way. But that works for people as well. A lot of people, a lot of very, very successful people talk about, you know, what is the word for it?
Law of attraction.
Yeah, and reading to them, like when they look at the mirror and say, I will be this and I will be that. Yeah, what is it called? I forgot the word for it. Affirmations. Yeah, so a lot of people believe in those affirmations. I have seen them every now and again, but I don't know, it's not something I regularly do. But yeah, you know, it happens, man. What you think, what you want, if you're working towards it, I'm a living example. It can come together.
Z, there's so much that I could probably go on about now, but obviously I know you're a very busy man. We're probably gonna have to do a part 2 at some point.
Yeah, sure, man.
Because I think the whole next topic is you've built what you've built, but then how do you save? How do you maintain? How do you grow? Going into the family office and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
If you guys want to see a part 2, make sure you comment down below. But for anyone that is now inspired, maybe they've seen your face before, but they didn't know what you did, and now they feel like we want to be a part of Z's journey. What's the best place for them to follow you and keep an eye on you?
I'm very active on social media. Instagram in particular, which is at Z, just at ZEE.
Great name, by the way. That the fact that you've got the tick and you've also got the Z at ZEE. ZEE.
Yeah. And then YouTube is Zeeshan Shah. We post on YouTube, but not as much. Instagram really is where I'm very active. And yeah, man, I like to keep it positive. I always put out, you know, message. I don't get that much, like, you're in the content business, so you know how hard it is to make content. People
100%.
don't realize, like, it is hard, man. You got to put time into researching and thinking, etc., etc. So I don't get to put out as much content as I would like, but I do regularly post, like, every day, every other day, and I try to put out as much valuable content and much positivity as I can. My message is all about, man, I had nothing going for me, nothing whatsoever. I just wish I'd documented more of my life in pictures, right? And the struggles that I went through and the difficult situations I was in. You know, I remember times when I had £5 to my name and a week to live, and I went to a shop and I bought 4 or 5 potatoes and 4 or 5 can of beans, and I thought, right, at least I can get enough energy to survive for a week. So, you know, I've been in dark places, man, and to be where I am today, I just know if I can do it, anyone can do it. And that's the message that I'm putting out to people, because so many people sit out and they complain about life. They complain about what people did to them and why things didn't go right and who's done what wrong to them. But you gotta just take control of your own life, and you can do it, man. And that's my message to everyone.
So we're definitely going to do a part 2, but 100% I recommend you go over to Z's Instagram, because not only is there valuable content, but there's probably things that maybe we didn't touch upon today, which you can benefit from. Real life experiences, not any lies, just the real truth from an award-winning entrepreneur.